Hello and welcome. Ever wondered how ethical hackers actually practice their craft without, getting into trouble? Well, today we're building that essential toolkit, your very own personal pen testing lab. We're going to walk through step by step how to create a safe, powerful environment where you can sharpen your skills completely legally.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. And the first thing we have to get straight is the #1 rule. You can't just go out and practice on any system you find online. I mean, not only is that incredibly dangerous, it's flat out illegal. This quote really nails why we're here. We absolutely need a secure, isolated sandbox to learn and experiment without causing any real-world harm. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why you even need a lab. Then, we'll look at the technologies you can use to build it. After that, we'll install our main operating system and a practice target. And finally, we'll gear up with the essential tools you're going to need. Let's get to it.
Right, so first things first, why even bother building a dedicated lab? This isn't just about having a cool setup, It's really about laying the right foundation for your entire learning journey in cybersecurity.
Think of this lab as your own private digital playground. Seriously. It's a self-contained little world where you can launch attacks, crash systems, exploit all sorts of vulnerabilities, and none of it has any real-world consequences. This is the absolute bedrock of learning how to hack ethically and, most importantly, safely.
So we've got our why. Now let's get into the how. When you're building this digital sandbox, you've basically got two main paths you can go down. And each one has its own unique pros and cons.
Okay, so what's really interesting here is the trade-off. On one hand, you have virtual machines, or VMs. Think of something like VirtualBox. It gives you a complete, separate, fully isolated computer running right inside your own. It's incredibly secure, but it can be a little heavy on your system's resources. On the other hand, you have containers, like Docker. They're much lighter and faster because they share parts of your main operating system. But they offer just a little less isolation. Honestly, for beginners, a VM is a fantastic, simple, and safe place to start.
And the magic that makes all of this possible? It's called virtualization. It's this core technology that lets us just carve out a piece of our actual computer's hardware, its processor, its memory, its storage, and then build a brand new, fully functional virtual computer right on top of it. This is our sandbox.
All right, so we've chosen our foundation. We're going with a virtual machine. Now it's time to give it a brain by installing an operating system. And when it comes to ethical hacking, there's really only one name you need to know.
And that name is Kali Linux. It is the undisputed industry standard for security pros. You can think of it like a specialized Swiss Army knife of an operating system. It comes preloaded with hundreds of tools for testing, for research, for forensics, everything. It saves us a ton of setup time and lets us jump right into the good stuff.
And you know what? The process itself is surprisingly easy. You just download the official file, the image, from their website, you create a new virtual machine in a program like VirtualBox, give it enough memory and disk space so it runs smoothly, and then you just follow the super simple on-screen installation guide.
So our lab is built, the operating system is running, but what are we going to practice on? A sterile, empty lab is no fun at all. We need a target. Something that is intentionally vulnerable that we can legally and safely attack.
So let me introduce you to your new favorite sparring partner, the Damn Vulnerable Web Application, or DVWA for short. It's a web app that's been purposefully built with a whole bunch of common security flaws. It is literally designed for you to break it, which gives you the perfect, safe, and legal environment to practice finding and exploiting vulnerabilities.
And getting your target ready is also a pretty straightforward process. Right inside your new Kali VM. You'll use a command called git to download the code, you'll tweak a little configuration file, and then you run a one-click setup script right from your web browser. Once that's done, your practice range is officially open for business.
And there it is, the keys to the kingdom. Username admin, password, password. This is that really satisfying moment when your lab goes from just being a collection of parts to being a fully functional practice range. You built it, and now you can log in.
Now, the really great thing about DVWA is that it grows with you. You can start on the low security setting, where the vulnerabilities are pretty obvious and easy to find. But as you get better, you can crank up the difficulty to medium, then to high, or even to the impossible level to really test your skills.
Okay, we have our attacker machine, which is Kali Linux, and we have our victim application, DVWA. Now we just need the tools to connect those two. So let's talk about what is probably the single most important tool in a web pen tester's arsenal.
That tool is a web proxy. A web proxy is like your digital microscope. It sits totally invisibly between your browser and the web application that you're testing. Every single piece of data, every request your browser sends, every response the server sends back, it all passes right through this proxy. And that lets you inspect it, tamper with it, and analyze everything.
And the best part is, you've got two fantastic industry-leading choices right out of the gate. Burp Suite is the commercial standard, and the free Community Edition comes pre-installed on Kali, which is just incredibly convenient. The other one is OWASP Zap. It's a completely free and open-source powerhouse, and it has a massive, really supportive community behind it. Honestly, you can't go wrong with either one.
So what this all means is that these proxies give you, well, it's almost like godlike control over web traffic. You can pause a request in midair, change any little part of it, and then see how the server reacts. You can replay that same request hundreds of times with tiny little changes. This manual, hands-on approach is how you find those really subtle flaws that automated scanners will always miss.
And that's it. You now have the complete framework for a professional-grade penetration testing lab, and it's running right on your own computer. You've got the attacker machine, you've got the vulnerable target, and you've got the critical analysis tools. The whole path is set. The only question left is, what will you discover first?